Hello and welcome to Black Lady Tales. My name is Diane Foster, and I need you to take a deep breath because what I'm about to tell you is something I never imagined could happen in my own family, at my own husband's funeral, from my own son's mouth. The rain came down in sheets that Tuesday afternoon in October, the kind of Atlanta rain that doesn't just fall, but attacks. I stood under a black umbrella that Marcus had bought me 5 Christmases ago, watching them lower my husband of 28 years into the ground. He was only 52. Heart attack, no warning. One minute he was laughing at something on TV, the next minute he was gone. I wore the black dress I'd bought for his mother's funeral 3 years back, and I'd made sure they buried him in his favorite tie, the navy one with the tiny gold pattern. My hands were steady as I held that umbrella. I didn't cry during the service. I'd done all my crying in private, in our bedroom, clutching his pillow at 3 in the morning. Our son Darnell stood beside me, 6 feet tall in an expensive suit. 26 years old and handsome like his daddy, but with something in his eyes that Marcus never had. Something cold. He didn't cry either, but for different reasons. He kept checking his phone. After the service, people came back to our house. The dining room table was covered with casseroles and fried chicken and sweet potato pies from church sisters who knew that food was the only language that made sense when words failed. I moved through the rooms accepting condolences, hugging people whose faces blurred together. If you're connecting with my story right now, if you've ever lost someone who was your whole world, do me a favor and hit that like button. Subscribe to Black Lady Tales so you don't miss what happens next. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from because I want to know I'm not alone in this. Marcus's lawyer, Jeffrey Chen, pulled me aside around 6 o'clock. The crowd had thinned. Darnell was in the living room with 3 of his friends, laughing too loud. "Diane, we need to do the reading," Jeffrey said quietly. Marcus was specific about the timing. I nodded. I knew what was coming. Jeffrey gathered us in Marcus's study. The room still smelled like him, like expensive cologne and leather. Darnell sat across from me, his friends waiting outside. For the first time all day, he looked fully present. Jeffrey opened the folder. Marcus updated his will 4 months ago. I watched Darnell lean forward. "To my beloved wife Diane, I leave our home, fully paid, and $500,000 in liquid assets, along with my eternal gratitude for 28 years of partnership." Darnell's fingers tightened on the armrest. "To my son, Darnell Marcus Foster, I leave the entirety of Foster Logistics Consulting, including all assets, accounts, and properties, valued at approximately $8 million. The room went silent. Darnell's face split into a smile he tried to hide. "There's a provision," Jeffrey continued. "Darnell assumes full ownership immediately, with complete authority over all business decisions, including personnel." That last word hung in the air. Personnel. Darnell stood up, shook Jeffrey's hand. "Thank you, Mr. Chen. I won't let my father down." I excused myself and went to the kitchen. Through the window, I could see the rain had finally stopped. The next morning came too fast. I dressed carefully for work, the way I had every weekday for 28 years. Black slacks, cream blouse, hair pulled back. I'd worked at Foster Logistics since before it had a name, since it was just me and Marcus in our garage with a phone and a dream. I arrived at the office at 7:30. The receptionist, Karen, looked at me with wide eyes. "Ms. Diane, Darnell said. She trailed off, looking miserable. "It's okay, baby. Whatever it is, it's okay." I walked to my office. The door to Marcus's office was open. Darnell sat behind the desk, feet up, talking on the phone. He saw me and held up one finger. "Wait," I waited. He finished his call, something about meeting someone at a club. Then he looked at me like I was a stranger. "Mom, come in, close the door." I stepped inside. The office already looked different. Marcus's family photos were gone. The degrees we'd hung together had been taken down. I'm going to make this quick because I've got a meeting at 9, Darnell said, not asking me to sit. I appreciate everything you did for Dad, I really do, but I'm taking the company in a new direction. Younger energy, fresh perspective. My heart started to beat faster, but my face stayed calm. What I'm saying is, your position is no longer necessary. Clear out your office by end of day. You're firing me, I said. I'm restructuring. You're just the secretary, Mom. No disrespect, but I need people who understand where business is going, not where it's been. 2 weeks severance, more than fair. Just the secretary, 28 years, and that's what I was to him. I could have said so many things. I could have told him who really built this company. I could have told him about the nights I stayed up balancing books. I could have told him about the clients I brought in, the contracts I negotiated, the fires I put out. But I didn't. Instead, I smiled, a real smile. Okay, baby, I'll clear my desk. I walked out with my head high. I could hear him already on the phone, laughing, telling someone he just cleaned house. It took me 45 minutes to pack 28 years into 3 cardboard boxes. My degrees, my photos, my Rolodex. Yes, I still had a Rolodex. That leather-bound book held more value than Darnell would understand for at least another week. Patricia, who'd been with us for 19 years, cried and hugged me. Marcus had hired her when she was a single mother with no hope. "What's going to happen to us?" she whispered. "Everything is going to work out exactly the way it's supposed to." I loaded my boxes into my Honda Accord and sat there for a moment, looking at the building Marcus and I had bought together 12 years ago. Then I drove away, watching it disappear in my rearview mirror. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I went home, made coffee, and sat at my kitchen table with my phone and my Rolodex. Because my son had just learned the most expensive lesson of his life, and he didn't even know it yet. But he was about to find out what happens when you mistake the foundation for the decoration, when you confuse a title with the truth, and that education was going to cost him everything. Let me take you back to where this really started, because you need to understand who I was before I became just the secretary. I met Marcus Foster in 1995 at Branson and Associates, a corporate logistics firm in downtown Atlanta. I was 22, fresh out of Spelman with a business degree and enough ambition to light up the whole city. Marcus was the same age, working in sales, charismatic in a way that made people trust him instantly. I'd applied for a junior analyst position. I had the grades, the degree, the recommendations. What I also had was black skin and a female body in an industry run by white men who thought women belonged in the typing pool. They hired me as a secretary, not because I wasn't qualified, because that's what they did in 1995 to ambitious black women who made them uncomfortable. I smiled, I answered phones, and I learned everything those men didn't think I was learning. Marcus saw me differently. He'd come to my desk with questions about accounts, logistics, routing. At first, I thought he was being friendly. Then I realized he was actually listening to my answers, implementing my suggestions, giving me credit. 6 months in, we had our first real conversation over bad coffee at midnight. We were both working late on a major presentation. Marcus was doing the pitch. I was supposed to be typing his notes. Instead, I rewrote his entire proposal. "This is brilliant," he said. "You see connections I don't see." "That's because I read the background file, the whole file." He looked at me for a long moment. "You're wasted answering phones, Diane." "I know, but that's the job they gave me." "What if we made our own jobs?" That's where it started. We got married in 1997 and started Foster Logistics 6 months later from our garage apartment. We had $1,200, a used computer, a fax machine from a pawn shop, and a phone line. What we didn't have was clients. What we did have was me. While Marcus had been charming clients at Branson, I'd been building relationships, real relationships. I remembered someone's daughter's name, their mother's health problems, their anniversary. I sent cards, made calls without wanting anything. Our first client was Mr. David Chen, a warehouse manager for an import company. He'd come through Branson and I'd spent 2 hours with him in the lobby, just talking. He told me about his father's business in Taiwan, his struggles with American shipping regulations, his daughter who wanted to be a doctor. When we opened our doors, Mr. Chen was my first call. "Ms. Diane," he said, "I was wondering when you'd call. I've been waiting." He gave us a 6-month contract worth $40,000. For a garage operation, that was everything. I brought in our second and third clients the same way. Mrs. Rosa Rodriguez, textile distribution, the Johnson Brothers, regional trucking. People I'd built trust with, one conversation at a time. Marcus was the face. He did. Presentations, pitches, handshakes. He was natural at it. But I was the foundation. I wrote proposals, built systems, managed operations, negotiated contracts, solved the problems that threatened to sink us. In 2001, we landed Patterson, a national retail chain, $3 million contract. Marcus pitched it beautifully, but I spent 6 months building a relationship with their operations director, Janet. Everyone else had written her off as difficult. She wasn't difficult. She was brilliant and tired of being ignored. When decision time came, Janet told her CEO, "I want to work with Foster Logistics. Specifically, I want to work with Diane Foster." We grew. By 2005, 15 employees. By 2010, our first real office building. By 2015, 12 million in annual revenue. Through all of it, Marcus was CEO, and I was executive assistant. I chose that title. Marcus wanted to make me COO, VP, partner. I said no. "Why?" he asked, frustrated. "You deserve recognition." "Baby, I have something better than a title. I have the relationships, I have the knowledge, I have the real power. Let them underestimate me." We raised Darnell in the middle of building this empire, born in 1997, right before we started the company. He grew up in offices, around business conversations, watching success compound. But somewhere along the way, he learned the wrong lessons. He saw his father's name on the building and thought that's what mattered. He saw his father's face in magazines and thought that's where power lived. He never saw the spreadsheets I built at midnight. The client calls at 6 in the morning. The fires I put out before Marcus knew they'd started. To Darnell, I was just mom. We tried to teach him different. When Darnell was 16, Marcus brought him to the office every Saturday for a year. Filing, data entry, client research. Darnell hated it, said it was beneath him. When he was 18, I brought him to a client lunch with Mrs. Rodriguez. I wanted him to see how business really worked. He spent the whole lunch on his phone. We paid for Morehouse. He partied through 4 years, graduated with a 2.3 GPA and entitlement that could fill a stadium. After college, he bounced between jobs, marketing at a failed startup, social media for a clothing line that never launched, sales at a car dealership where he took more selfies than he made sales. Nothing stuck because nothing required real work. 6 months before Marcus died, we had the hardest conversation of our marriage. Late night, both unable to sleep. We heard Darnell coming in at 2 in the morning. "What's going to happen to the business when we're gone?" Marcus asked. "You mean when you're gone? I'm going to outlive you by 20 years. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Darnell is our only child. This is our legacy, but I don't know if he's ready." "He's not," I said simply. "What if we gave him the chance to prove himself? What if I left him the business and we watched what he did with it?" "Baby, that's a terrible idea." "Maybe, but every other way we've tried to teach him has failed. Maybe he needs real responsibility. Or maybe he needs to fail," I said quietly. Marcus looked at me. "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe the kindest thing we can do is let him fall. Let him learn that success isn't about inheritance, it's about work. That could destroy the business. I know. We sat in silence. What if you were there? Marcus said slowly. Able to catch the pieces if it all fell apart? That's when the plan formed. Marcus would leave Darnell the business. I would take the house and enough money to be comfortable. And we would see what our son was made of. If he succeeded with respect and integrity, Marcus's faith would be proven right. If he failed through arrogance and entitlement, he would learn the hardest lesson of his life. Either way, I would be there. Not to rescue him, but to make sure the lesson stuck. Marcus died 3 months later, and now, standing in my kitchen the morning after being fired, I understood the test had begun. Darnell thought he'd inherited an $8 million business. What he'd actually inherited was the most expensive education of his life. I spent that first day doing what I'd always done, taking care of business. Not Darnell's business, mine. I set up my laptop at the kitchen table, made coffee, and opened my email. The inbox was already filling up. The first message came at 9:15 from David Chen. Diane, I heard you've left the company. Please tell me this isn't true. I have concerns about our contract renewal next month and I need to speak with you specifically. I stared at that email for a long moment. Mr. Chen had been our first client 26 years ago. He renewed every single year without fail. But the contract wasn't with Foster Logistics. Not really. It was with me. I called him back. Ms. Diane, thank God, what's going on? That's correct, Mr. Chen. I've moved on to pursue other opportunities. Long pause. And these opportunities, do they include continuing our working relationship? I'm exploring my options. I haven't made firm decisions yet. When you do, call me. Our contract is up November 15th, 3 weeks. I'll be honest, Diane. I've stayed with Foster because of you. Your attention to detail, your understanding of our needs. If you're not there, I'm not sure what reason I have to stay. We talked for 10 more minutes. I didn't badmouth Darnell. I simply listened and told him I appreciated his loyalty. 15 minutes later, Rosa Rodriguez called. Mija, tell me what I'm hearing isn't true, that Marcus's son fired you? It's true. He's taking the company in a new direction. A direction without you? That's not a direction, that's a cliff. Diane, you know I loved Marcus, but that business stayed afloat because of you. Everyone knows it except apparently his son. Darnell is young, he's learning. He's about to learn an expensive lesson. My contract is up in January, 2 months. If you happen to be offering consulting services, I'd very much like to discuss rates. 3 more calls that day, the Johnson brothers. Patricia from the office crying, a supplier who'd worked with us for a decade. The message was the same, where you go, we go. That evening, I updated my LinkedIn profile, changed my status to available for consulting opportunities. Within 2 hours, 43 messages. Meanwhile, Darnell was making changes. Patricia called me every evening with updates. She couldn't help herself. She was worried. He fired Leonard today, she told me on day 3. Leonard, 12 years with us, said he was too old school. Brought in some kid named Tyler, one of his frat brothers who doesn't know the difference between a bill of lading and a billing statement. How's Tyler working out? He spent half the day on our database, the other half on Instagram. Meanwhile, we missed a delivery window for Henderson because nobody caught the scheduling conflict Leonard would have spotted in 5 minutes. Day 4, Darnell fired Martin, our contract specialist. Day 5, Gloria, 16-year client relations manager. He replaced them all with his friends. Young, stylish, confident, completely unqualified. And then there was Simone, Darnell's girlfriend, a 24-year-old Instagram influencer with 200,000 followers. He's put her in charge of rebranding, Patricia said. She wants to spend $30,000 on a new website. We just updated the website last year. I know. She said it isn't aligned with the vision. By end of week 1, Darnell had fired 6 people and hired 5 friends, committed to a $30,000 rebrand, bought himself a red BMW M5 with company funds, repainted Marcus's office gray and white, removing every trace of his father. The mistakes started piling up. Week 2 began with a crisis. Brennan Manufacturing had a major shipment of automotive parts that needed to go from Atlanta to Detroit. Time sensitive, high value, critical. Tyler entered the shipping code wrong. The parts went to Denver. By the time anyone caught it, Brennan had shut down production for 6 hours, costing $60,000. They invoiced Foster Logistics for the loss. Darnell blamed the shipping company, then the database, then legacy processes. Never blamed Tyler. Janet Brennan called me. "Diane, tell me you're coming back. This is unacceptable. In 8 years, you never made a mistake like this. Our contract renewal is in March. If you're not back at Foster by then, we're looking elsewhere." "I understand. Do you have plans? Are you starting your own thing?" I thought about the LLC paperwork I'd filed that morning. Diane Foster Consulting. "I'm exploring options." "Explore faster. Call me when you've decided." That afternoon, Patricia called, voice shaking. "He's letting the liability insurance lapse. Premium is due next week. I told him we can't have a gap in coverage. He said it was too expensive, that we'd go with a cheaper carrier." My heart rate picked up. That policy costs $40,000 a year and covers $10 million in liability. "I know. He said I was being negative." "When does it expire?" "Friday, 4 days." Without proper insurance, Foster Logistics was one accident away from catastrophe. "Document everything," I told her. "Protect yourself." By end of week 2, 3 employees had quit. Not fired, quit. 2 called me asking if I was hiring. Not yet, but soon. Week 3, the Johnson brothers called. "We've been trying to reach someone about routing for 2 weeks. Nobody calls back. We got hold of Tyler, who didn't understand the question. Diane, what's going on?" "I'm no longer with the company. I was let go 3 weeks ago." Long silence. "You, the person who's handled our account for 15 years." "Yes, sir." "And who's handling it now?" "Tyler is your new account manager." "I see. Very interesting information." That same week, Simone's rebrand went live. New website, new logo, purple and gold instead of navy and silver. The logo looked like a nightclub. The website was beautiful and completely non-functional. Contact forms didn't work. Client portal was gone, replaced by "coming soon." Clients who'd tracked shipments online for years suddenly had no access. Patricia called in tears. "The phones haven't stopped. Everyone's furious. Darnell is at lunch celebrating the launch." That evening, Darnell called me. "Mom, hey, I wanted to touch base. We've been having some transitional challenges, growing pains. I was thinking maybe you could consult for a few days, help smooth things over." "Are you asking me to come back?" "Not come back. Just consult. Short term. I'd pay you. $25 an hour." $25 an hour for 28 years of experience. That's less than you're paying Tyler. Well, Tyler has specialized skills in... Tyler sent a shipment to Denver instead of Detroit and cost us $60,000. Silence. "I appreciate you thinking of me, but I'm working on my own projects now." "What kind of projects?" "Consulting opportunities. I've had a lot of interest." "From who?" "Client confidentiality." Heavy silence. "Are you going after my clients?" "I haven't approached anyone. People have approached me." "That's the same thing. You can't steal my client base." "They're not your clients, baby. They're people with business needs looking for someone they trust. If they choose to work with me, that's their choice." "This is sabotage." "No, sabotage would be me telling people the truth about what's happening at Foster. I haven't done that. I've been nothing but professional." You can't compete with me. That's corporate espionage or something. It's called capitalism, Darnell. I'm not competing. I'm just doing what I've always done, building relationships and delivering quality work. If that feels like competition, maybe ask yourself why. I could hear his breathing, fast and angry. Fine, do whatever. I don't need you anyway. I'm taking this company places Dad never dreamed of. I hope you do, baby. I really do. I hung up, and when my phone buzzed with another email, this one from David Chen confirming he'd decided not to renew with Foster Logistics and would like to discuss engaging my services directly, I knew the answer was already unfolding. Darnell had inherited an $8 million company, and he was about to discover that the company was never really his to inherit. By week 4, I had something Darnell would never expect. A thriving business of my own. My home office was nothing fancy. Marcus's old desk that I'd saved from when we first started out, positioned by the window overlooking our backyard. My laptop, my phone, my Rolodex, and a filing system I could navigate with my eyes closed. No expensive rebranding, no purple and gold logos, no Instagram influencer telling me about aesthetic cohesion. Just me, doing what I'd always done, building relationships, solving problems, delivering results. Diane Foster Consulting officially opened on a Monday morning. By Wednesday, I had my first 3 clients. David Chen signed first. His contract with Foster Logistics expired on November 15th, and he didn't renew. Instead, he engaged my services at twice what he'd been paying Foster and told me it was worth every penny. "You understand my business, Diane," he said during our first official meeting at a coffee shop downtown. "You know my father started our company with nothing. You respect that. You've lived it yourself." Mrs. Rodriguez came next. She didn't even wait for her January contract to expire. She found a clause that allowed her to terminate with 30 days' notice if there was a significant change in account management. Losing me qualified. "I don't trust that boy," she told me bluntly. "Marcus, God rest him, he had sense. You have sense." "Darnell? He has ego, that's not the same thing." The Johnson brothers were third. They called me on a Thursday afternoon, both of them on the line together like always. "Diane, we've tried," Marcus Johnson said. "We really tried to give Darnell a chance out of respect for his father, but this Tyler kid lost another shipment. That's 3 in a month. We can't operate like this." "We want to hire you directly," his brother James added. "Whatever your rate is, we'll pay it. We just need someone who knows what they're doing." I gave them my rate. They didn't blink. By the end of week 5, I had 5 clients and was turning away inquiries because I needed to pace myself. My revenue projections for the first year were already approaching $500,000. I worked from my kitchen table in comfortable clothes, no commute, no office politics, just good work for people who valued it. Meanwhile, across town, Darnell's empire was crumbling like a sandcastle at high tide. Patricia still called me most evenings. I told her she didn't have to, that she should protect herself and keep her distance from me professionally. But she needed someone to talk to, someone who understood what was being lost. "He had a staff meeting today," she told me on week 5. "Tried to give some motivational speech about pushing through challenges and being disruptors. Half the room wasn't even listening. People are updating their resumes during work hours, Diane. They've given up." "How bad are the numbers?" She was quiet for a moment. "I shouldn't tell you this." "Then don't. Protect yourself first, Patricia." "No, you need to know. The company is losing approximately $60,000 a month, maybe more. Tyler signed a contract with a new shipping vendor that looked good on paper, but the terms are killing us. We're locked in for 2 years, and every month we're hemorrhaging money on fuel surcharges and penalty fees that weren't in the initial proposal." I closed my eyes. Tyler didn't read the full contract. Tyler doesn't read anything. He skims. And Darnell just trusted him because they're boys, because they're brothers, because they've known each other since college. Her voice cracked. 28 years of building, Diane. It's falling apart in weeks. The insurance situation I'd warned about came back with a vengeance in week 6. A shipment of electronics heading to a retailer in Charlotte got lost. Just completely lost. 20,000 units, worth approximately $400,000. The shipping company admitted fault, but Foster Logistics' new cheap insurance policy had a coverage cap of $100,000 per incident. The retailer sued for the full amount, plus consequential damages for lost sales, $300,000. Darnell's new insurance didn't even come close to covering it. Patricia called me the day the lawsuit was filed, crying so hard I could barely understand her. I warned him, she kept saying. I told him we needed the proper coverage. I documented everything, sent emails, put it in writing. He called me a dinosaur. He said I was stuck in the past. Patricia, breathe. This isn't your fault. The company can't survive this, Diane. We don't have $300,000 in liquid assets. Not anymore. Not after Simone spent $200,000 on the rebrand and Darnell bought that car and gave his boys all those signing bonuses. $200,000 on a rebrand for a company that was bleeding clients. How much has Simone spent total? I asked. Just on the rebrand? The website, the new logo, the office renovation, the promotional materials, the social media campaign that went nowhere. Around $220,000. But she's also on the payroll now as chief brand officer, making $90,000 a year. I had to sit down. Chief brand officer. A position that didn't exist 4 weeks ago, that the company didn't need, paying almost 6 figures to someone whose main qualification was taking good selfies. There's more, Patricia said. The building. My heart sank. What about the building? Darnell took out a line of credit against it, used the building as collateral to get cash flow. I don't know how much, but I saw the paperwork on his desk. And now with the revenue dropping and the lawsuit and the losses, I don't think he can make the payments. The building Marcus and I had bought in 2012, the building we'd scrimped and saved for, that we'd been so proud to own outright. Darnell had leveraged it for cash to fund his lifestyle and his incompetent friends. That night, my phone rang, Darnell. I let it ring 3 times before I answered. Hi, baby. Mom. His voice was different, smaller, missing the arrogance that had been there last time. Hey, can we talk? We're talking now. I mean, really talk. Can I come by? What's this about, Darnell? Silence, then. I think I might have made some mistakes. Some mistakes. An $8 million company circling the drain in 6 weeks, and he'd made some mistakes. What kind of mistakes? Just side business stuff. Nothing I can't fix, but I could use some advice. From someone with experience. He paused. From you. This was it. The moment where he'd ask me to save him, to come back, to fix what he'd broken. Darnell, I'm happy to talk with you. But if you're asking me to come back to Foster Logistics, the answer is no. Why not? You're my mother. You're supposed to help me. I am helping you, by letting you figure this out yourself. That's not help. That's abandonment. His voice rose. You're watching me fail. You're probably enjoying it. I'm not enjoying anything about this, baby, but I'm also not going to rescue you from consequences you created. Consequences I created? He laughed, bitter and sharp. You're the one who stole my clients. You sabotaged me. I haven't stolen anyone, Darnell. I haven't called a single client and asked them to switch. They came to me. Because you poisoned them against me. No, because they had problems and they needed someone who could solve them. Someone they trusted. Someone with 28 years of experience building those exact relationships. So you admit it. You admit you took what was mine. Something in me hardened. Those relationships were never yours. They weren't even your father's. Not really. They were mine. I built them. I nurtured them. I earned them over decades, one phone call at a time, one problem solved at a time, one promise kept at a time. Dad left me the business. That means the clients are mine. Your father left you assets, contracts, and property. He couldn't leave you relationships because relationships aren't property. They're trust, and trust has to be earned. This is bullshit. His voice shook with rage. You're supposed to be on my side. I am on your side, baby. That's why I'm letting you learn. Learn what? How to lose everything, how to fail, how to build something real instead of inheriting something you never understood. He hung up on me. I sat there in my kitchen, phone in my hand, and felt the weight of what was coming. Because this wasn't over. This was just the beginning of the end. 2 days later, Patricia called with the news I'd been dreading. He got the foreclosure notice today, on the building. He missed 2 payments and the bank is moving forward with foreclosure proceedings. How did he take it? He threw a chair through the conference room window. Then he locked himself. In his office. Simone came by around lunch and they had a screaming match. She left crying. Tyler and the other guys all kind of disappeared. Nobody knows what to do. Week 7 brought mass resignations. 8 employees, including Patricia, all turned in their notices the same day. They'd held on out of loyalty to Marcus's memory, but they couldn't stay on a sinking ship. Patricia was the last to leave, and she called me from her car in the parking lot after clearing out her desk. It's over, Diane. I don't know how he recovers from this. I don't think he can. Where are you going? I don't know yet. I've got some interviews lined up. I'll figure it out. Patricia, I'm hiring. I need an operations manager. Someone I trust. Someone who knows how I work. Someone who understands that we're building something different here. Interested? I heard her breath catch. Are you serious? Dead serious. Same rate you were making at Foster, plus profit sharing. But I need to know you're coming because you want to, not because you feel obligated. I want to. God, Diane, I want to so much. When can I start? Monday work for you? She laughed through tears. Monday is perfect. I hired 3 more former Foster employees that week. Good people who'd been caught in Darnell's chaos through no fault of their own. People who deserved better than watching excellence get destroyed by arrogance. My little home operation was growing. I'd need real office space soon, but that was a good problem to have. Day 85 after the firing, I got a text from Darnell at 11 o'clock at night. The company is filing for bankruptcy. Monday, I lost everything. Hope you're happy. I stared at that text for a long time. Then I typed back, I'm not happy, baby, but I'm hopeful. Sometimes we have to lose everything to find out what really matters. He didn't respond. On day 87, a Friday afternoon, I was working at my kitchen table when I heard a car pull up outside. Heard the engine shut off. Heard a car door slam with more force than necessary. I looked out the window and saw a tow truck pulling away, dragging Darnell's red BMW behind it. Repossessed. And Darnell, standing in my driveway in jeans and a t-shirt I'd bought him for Christmas 2 years ago, looking at my front door like it was the last place on earth he wanted to be, and the only place he had left to go. I watched through the window as my son stood in my driveway, shoulders slumped, watching his repossessed car disappear down the street. He looked smaller than I'd ever seen him. Not physically, but in some essential way, like something that had been inflated inside him for 26 years had finally punctured, and all the air had rushed out at once. He stood there for a full minute before he started walking toward my front door. His steps were slow, heavy. When he reached the porch, he stopped again, raised his hand to knock, then lowered it, raised it again. I watched him struggle with his pride, watched him almost turn around and leave 3 separate times. Finally, he knocked, soft, barely audible. I waited a moment, then walked to the door and looked through the peephole. His head was bowed. He wasn't looking at the door, wasn't trying to see if anyone was home. He looked like he was praying or preparing himself for something he didn't want to face. I opened the door. He looked up, and I saw his eyes were red. He'd been crying, probably in the car on the way over, probably for days if I was honest. "Hi, baby," I said gently. "Hi, Mom." His voice cracked on the second word. We stood there for a moment, mother and son, separated by the threshold of the home he'd grown up in. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. "Of course." He walked past me into the living room, and I noticed things I hadn't seen at the funeral. He'd lost weight. His clothes hung looser. There were dark circles under his eyes that rivaled the ones I'd worn when Marcus died. "Sit down," I said. "Let me make us some tea." "Mom, I don't need—" "Sit down, Darnell." He sat. I went to the kitchen and put the kettle on. Made chamomile tea, the kind I used to make him when he was little and couldn't sleep. Added honey the way he liked it. Brought it out on the tray with some butter cookies from the church bake sale. He took the mug but didn't drink, just held it between his hands like he was trying to warm himself. I sat across from him in Marcus's old chair and waited. "I lost everything," he said finally. "The business filed for bankruptcy this morning, Chapter 7. Complete liquidation. The building is in foreclosure. My car just got repossessed, as you saw. My apartment, I'm 3 months behind on rent. The landlord is starting eviction proceedings." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Simone broke up with me. Text message, 4 words. This isn't working out. Didn't even call." "I'm sorry, baby." "Are you?" He looked up, and there was something raw in his eyes. "Are you really sorry? Or is this what you wanted all along?" "What I wanted was for you to learn. This isn't how I wanted you to learn it, but here we are." "Learn what? That I'm a failure?" Message received. "No, that success isn't about titles and money and flash. It's about relationships, competence, character." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "Why didn't you stop me?" "Stop you? From what?" "From destroying everything. You knew I was making mistakes. You knew I was in over my head. You could have come back. You could have helped me. Why didn't you?" I took a sip of my tea, choosing my words carefully. "Do you remember when you were 7 years old and you wanted to ride your bike without training wheels?" He frowned, confused by the shift. "What?" "You wanted to ride like the big kids in the neighborhood. Your father and I took you to the park, took the training wheels off. You were so excited. You got on that bike and you took off, and after about 10 feet you crashed. Skinned your knee, scraped your elbow, cried for 20 minutes. I don't see what— And do you remember what you wanted to do after that?" He was quiet. "You wanted to put the training wheels back on. You said it was too hard, too scary. You'd never be able to do it." "Mom, I don't—" "But your father and I, we didn't put those training wheels back on. We bandaged your knee, dried your tears, and we told you to try again. And you were so mad at us. You said we were mean, that we didn't love you, that we wanted you to get hurt." Darnell's jaw tightened. "You tried again, and you crashed again and again. You crashed probably 15 times that day, but we didn't put the training wheels back on. We just kept encouraging you to try again. I eventually learned to ride." "You did, and do you know why?" "Because I practiced. Because we loved you enough to let you fall." I leaned forward. "Darnell, if we'd put those training wheels back on, you'd have felt safe in that moment, but you never would have learned to ride. You'd still be dependent on something you didn't need, something that was actually holding you back." He stared at his tea. "So the business was training wheels." "No, baby, the business was the bike. Your arrogance was the training wheels. Your sense of entitlement, your belief that you deserve success without having to earn it. Your idea that a title made you qualified. Those were training wheels, and your father and I, we took 'em off. Dad never would have let this happen. Your father planned this." His head snapped up. "What?" I set down my tea and folded my hands in my lap. "The will, the terms, leaving you the entire business. That was your father's idea, but I helped him refine it. You knew. You knew he was going to leave me everything. I did more than know. I suggested it. The color drained from his face. Why would you do that? Because 6 months before your father died, we had a conversation about you, about your future, about what we were building and who we were building it for. And we realized we'd failed you in some fundamental way. We'd given you everything, but taught you nothing about how to earn it, how to keep it, how to deserve it. So you decided to let me destroy it. We decided to test you, to see if you were ready. Your father wanted to split the business between us. Give you half and me half. I said no. I said give him everything. Give him the chance to prove he understands what we built. Give him the chance to honor the legacy or learn why it mattered. Darnell stood up abruptly, tea sloshing over the rim of his mug. So this whole thing was a setup. You manipulated Dad into setting me up for failure? I didn't manipulate anyone. I had a conversation with my husband about our son. And yes, we made a choice. We chose to give you an education instead of an inheritance. I lost $8 million. No, baby. You lost the illusion that you'd earned $8 million. There's a difference. I stood up too, met his eyes. Your father said something to me that last night we talked about the will. He said, if Darnell is ready, he'll respect what we built. He'll value the people, the relationships, the work. He'll grow it, and we'll know we raised him right. Then he paused and said, but if he's not ready, he needs to learn, and losing everything might be the only way he learns what really matters. Tears were streaming down Darnell's face now. I fired you the day after we buried him. I called you just the secretary. I know. I treated you like you were nothing, like you didn't matter. I know that too. And you let me. You just smiled and walked away. Because I knew something you didn't know yet. I reached out and took his hand. I knew that the company wasn't the inheritance. The lesson was the inheritance, and you couldn't learn that lesson if I rescued you from yourself. He collapsed back onto the couch, put his head in his hands, and sobbed. 26 years of arrogance, entitlement, and false confidence breaking apart in my living room. I sat beside him and put my arm around his shoulders, the way I did when he was little and the world felt too big. We sat like that for a long time until his tears slowed and his breathing evened out. I don't know what to do now, he whispered. I don't have anything. No job, no money, no prospects. I'm 26 years old and I have to start from zero. Not zero, I said. You have something more valuable than money. What? You have the knowledge of what not to do. You have humility that can only come from falling. You have a chance to build something real instead of inheriting something hollow. He looked at me, eyes red and swollen. What am I supposed to do with that? I took a breath. This was the moment. The offer I'd been preparing since the day he fired me. You come work for me. He blinked. What? Diane Foster Consulting is growing fast. I need help. Real help. I need someone in operations who's willing to learn from the ground up, who'll show up early, stay late, do the work nobody else wants to do. Someone who'll learn how to build relationships instead of assuming they come with a title. You want me to work for you after everything I did? I want to teach you what I should have taught you years ago, how to really run a business, how to value people, how to earn respect instead of demanding it. I paused. But it won't be easy. You'll start at the bottom. You'll be doing data entry, client research, scheduling. Same work I tried to teach you when you were 16, and you said it was beneath you. What's the pay? $40,000 a year to start. That's $20 an hour. You'll have to find a roommate situation because you won't afford your own place. You'll have to rebuild your credit, your reputation, everything. His pride wrestled across his face. I could see it, the part of him that wanted to say no, that was insulted by the offer, that still thought he deserved better. Then something shifted. Something broke, or maybe something finally clicked into place. When do I start? Monday morning, 7 a.m., don't be late. 6 months later, I pulled into the parking lot of my new office building at 6:30 in the morning and saw Darnell's car already there. Not a BMW this time. A used Honda Civic he'd bought with his first three paychecks, something reliable and practical. The man who'd spent $200,000 on rebranding now drove a car with a dent in the passenger door and seats that smelled faintly of the fast food the previous owner had eaten. And he'd beaten me to work. I walked in to find him at the coffee station making a full pot. Not just for himself the way he used to, for the team. "Morning, Mom," he said, and there was something different in his voice, something lighter. "Patricia likes hers with cream, no sugar. Martin takes his black. Gloria wants tea instead, chamomile with honey." He'd learned everyone's preferences, small thing, huge thing. "Morning, baby, you're here early." Big client meeting at 9, wanted to make sure everything was ready. He handed me my coffee, fixed exactly how I liked it. I reviewed the presentation 3 times last night, found 2 errors we need to fix before you show it to them. This was the son I'd hoped to raise. Not perfect, but present. Not entitled, but engaged. Diane Foster Consulting had grown beyond anything I'd imagined that first day at my kitchen table. We were up to 12 employees now, all of them people who valued relationships over flash, substance over style. Patricia ran operations with the same excellence she'd brought to Foster Logistics. Martin handled contracts. Gloria managed client relations. And Darnell did whatever needed doing, without complaint, without ego. The first 3 months had been rough. I'd watched him struggle with tasks he considered beneath him, watched his pride chafe against the reality of starting over. He'd wanted to jump straight into client meetings, strategy sessions, decision-making. I'd handed him a spreadsheet and told him to reconcile the accounts. He'd wanted to impress our clients with his ideas. I told him to listen to their needs instead. He'd wanted recognition for every small success. I'd taught him that real success was quiet, cumulative, built over time through consistent excellence nobody applauded. Around month 4, something clicked. He stopped trying to prove himself and started trying to learn, stopped talking about where he'd come from and started asking where he could go. Patricia pulled me aside one day and said, "He's becoming his father, the good parts." The biggest test came in month 5 when David Chen requested a meeting. Mr. Chen had been my first client, my most loyal, and I valued his opinion more than almost anyone's. I brought Darnell to the meeting as my operations assistant, there to take notes and observe. Mr. Chen shook his hand and said, "Young man, I heard about what happened at Foster Logistics. I'm sorry for your losses." I watched Darnell's face, waiting to see how he'd respond. The old Darnell would have made excuses, shifted blame, protected his ego. "Thank you, Mr. Chen," he said quietly. "I made a lot of mistakes, cost a lot of good people their jobs, damaged my father's legacy, disappointed my mother. I'm working on being better." Mr. Chen looked at me, then back at Darnell. "Working for your mother must be humbling." "Yes, sir. It's the best education I've ever had." After the meeting, Mr. Chen pulled me aside. "That's not the same young man who fired you 6 months ago." "No, sir, it's not." "You did good, Diane. Marcus would be proud." That night, Darnell and I had lunch together at a small diner near the office. Nothing fancy, just burgers and fries. We'd started doing this once a week, a time to decompress and talk. "Can I ask you something?" he said, dragging a fry through ketchup. "Always. Do you forgive me? For what I did, for firing you, for disrespecting you, for everything?" I put down my burger and looked at my son, really looked at him. 6 months ago, his eyes had been hard, entitled, distant. Now they were open, present, genuine. "Baby, I forgave you the day you did it. Because I knew you didn't understand what you were doing. You didn't understand what you were destroying, what you were losing, who you were becoming. And now? Now you understand, and that makes all the difference. He was quiet for a moment. I saw Simone last week, at the grocery store. I waited. She was with some other guy. Older, nice car. She looked right through me like I didn't exist. He shook his head. I thought I loved her. Thought she loved me. But she loved the money, the lifestyle. Soon as that was gone, so was she. I'm sorry. Don't be. I needed to see what that was, what I was chasing. He smiled. I'm seeing someone new, actually. Her name is Angela. She's a teacher, 3rd grade. We met at the coffee shop. She has no idea about Foster Logistics, about the money I lost. She just knows I work for my mom's consulting company, and I drive a Honda with a dent in it. And she likes you anyway? She does. Weird, right? But he was smiling when he said it. That's when I knew the lesson had really stuck. When he stopped measuring his worth by what he had and started understanding it, came from who he was. The business kept growing. By month 6, we were doing $3 million in annual revenue. Not $8 million, not yet, but $3 million built on solid relationships, excellent service, and people who genuinely cared about the work. I'd started profit sharing with the team. Everyone who contributed to our success shared in it. Not just me at the top, collecting everything while calling other people employees. Darnell's share wasn't the largest, but he'd earned every penny of it. One evening, I was closing up the office when I found him still at his desk, reviewing client files. Go home, baby. It's past 7. Just finishing up. Want to be ready for tomorrow. He looked up. Mom, can I ask you something? Always. Do you think Dad would be proud of me? Now, I mean, after everything. I walked over and sat on the edge of his desk. Your father loved you more than anything in this world. And yes, I think he'd be proud of who you're becoming. Not who you were, but who you're choosing to be. I wish I could tell him I'm sorry for wasting what he built, for not appreciating it. Baby, I believe he knows, and I believe he's watching you rebuild yourself, and that makes him happier than any business success ever could. We sat there in the quiet office, the evening sun coming through the windows, and I felt Marcus's presence like I hadn't in months. Not the grief of missing him, but the peace of knowing his legacy was secure. Not in money or buildings or client lists. In his son, finally learning what really mattered. If you've stayed with me this whole time, if my story touched something in you, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe to Black Lady Tales because I've got more stories to tell, more lessons to share. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from and whether you've ever had to make a hard choice to help someone you love learn and grow. Because that's what this was always about. Not punishment, not revenge, not even justice. Teaching. People ask me sometimes if I regret how it all happened. If I wish I'd stopped Darnell sooner, saved the original company, prevented all that pain, and I tell them no, because generational wealth isn't just about passing down money, it's about passing down wisdom. Character, the understanding that nothing worth having comes easy, and everything worth keeping requires work. I could have given Darnell $8 million and watched him waste it over decades instead of months. Could have enabled his entitlement, protected his ego, let him coast on his father's name until there was nothing left but resentment and regret. Instead, I gave him something more valuable. I gave him the chance to fail, the opportunity to learn, the dignity of earning his own way. And now I'm building something new. Something sustainable, something that when I'm ready to step back, Darnell might inherit. Not because he's my son, but because he'll have earned it, because he'll understand what it takes to maintain it, because he'll value the people and relationships that make it possible. That's the real inheritance, not money. Understanding. Marcus used to say, give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. I didn't give Darnell fish. I let him go hungry until he learned to fish for himself. And now he's teaching me things, bringing new ideas, finding better ways to solve old problems. We're partners now in a way we never could have been if I just handed him success. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is letting them fall, so they can learn to stand on their own 2 feet. Sometimes love looks like saying no, like walking away, like watching someone struggle and not rescuing them. And sometimes, if you're patient enough, if you're strong enough, if you love them enough, you get to watch them rise. That's how I lost an $8 million company and gained something worth so much more, a son who finally understands what real wealth means.